which was the 6th day of November this year. I was at a restaurant and I told somebody I want to test if these young people who are high school graduates know African leaders. And I called 4 of them and I asked them, do you know the president of Burundi, which is in the East African region? None of them knew the president of Burundi, but they knew which American actor had eaten something the previous day. They knew which European footballer had scored. They knew what was happening in the vote count in Georgia. How can a continent in the 21st century be so full of ignorant people, and we expect that we are going to compete with the Chinese, with the Vietnamese, with the Japanese, with the Europeans and the Koreans in this age of information?
Prof, you don't think our education system is wrong?
Of course I do.
Because I think for what he's saying, I think it's because of our education system, because we don't know our history. Somebody asked me a question yesterday that if you had the chance to change something in Africa, what will it be? I just said education system, because I had to grow up just to find out my own history, because we were never taught in school. A country like Ghana, you will never hear about Cameroon until you start growing up.
I can't agree with you more. Do you know that in certain Scandinavian countries, whatever you study, whether it is geography, whether it is chemistry, whether it's physics, whether it's mathematics, you've got to learn the history of that thing. People without a sense of history cannot have a sense of their present and cannot have a sense of their future. That is why when you go to European countries, they have museums. Museums are the link between the present generation and the past generation. Here, in many African countries, out of 10 people, if you ask them now, they visited museums because it was mandatory to do so when they were at school. But they can't just take their children to a museum. When they travel to Europe and America, they travel to Disneyland, not to museums. I can't agree with you more. One of the things that we must do is to decolonize our minds. Ngugi wa Thiong'o was right, because if you control a people's mind through indoctrination and through false information and through false history, then you can control them very easily.
Prof, do you think Africa needs democracy?
You know, this is a question, I'm very glad you've asked me that question, because Europe and America came here. Europe and America, I call them the conceptual West. They came here and told us democracy means multi-party politics. Democracy means regular elections. That cannot possibly be the only meaning of democracy. That can only mean Western democracy. Africa must now begin to define her own democracy. And how do I define democracy? Democracy is a government in which the people have the opportunity and the right to participate in decision making. It will differ from society to society, but as long as the people have a role in decision making, that to me will constitute democracy. So I believe that African societies must define their own idea of democracy, as long as the people participate, as long as those who are in charge of people's affairs are answerable to the people. That, and your own countryman Nana Akobina Nketia, who himself is a traditional ruler and a former professor at the University of Cape Coast, has written a book talking exactly about that. That this idea of democracy, which is one size fits all, must be discarded as long as if Africa is to grow. The reason why we can't work, why we think that democracy, Western democracy doesn't work in Africa, is because it is not suitable to our circumstances. You now see in every African country almost, after election there is conflict, because the winners are deemed to have rigged and the losers will never accept. That is not how Africans reign their affairs.